a dream in many parts now, and I really want to just the last part that I'm that tax boss guy basically gestured with his finger to go to the back of to queue if I want to go home. Okay, but I understood that he was lying, that this is not the queue that I need in order to go home, because I knew in my mind where home was, and I knew for a fact that this particular queue does not take me home. But for the life of me, I could not remember what was the connected taxi route that I needed in order to get to go home. I couldn't remember it in my dream, and I was also taken over mesmerously so by this like guy that was the taxi boss. At the back of the queue, I encountered Ali, a girl I gave the name Ali that I used to in waking life for real work with at MTN, a white girl that I had a similar career trajectory with, and we had similar sort of kind of outworkings of things, and by the time I left for South Africa, she was engaged to be married, and the two of us were exactly the same age, more or less, me and Ali. Okay, cool beans and bananas. I saw Ali at the back of the queue, and she was wearing black charcoal clothing. All right, she was also very scantily clad. I could see her thighs and everything. The nudity of her outfit was highlighted very starkly in my dream. When I got to the back of the queue, I was like, oh Ali, yeah, weird to see you here, especially considering you're a white chick. What are you doing here in Soweto in a queue in a taxi? I mean, you're a white girl, you have got all the benefits and the privileges within your ecosystem to have your own car. You know, last time I checked, you were a married or about to be a married woman. Where's your husband? Why isn't he picking you up? And what are you doing in a taxi, you know, queue? And anyway, the conversation that I had with Ali was about where we were going, and Ali was like, Southgate. You know, the taxi marshal guy who sent me to the back of this queue was basically saying, this is the only queue that you can join. And I felt pulled to basically being in this queue, even though I knew that this was not going to take me home. And this queue was going to Southgate. Southgate is a mall in this country that is in the southern suburbs of Johannesburg. It's the only reason why it's called Southgate. But what's not, the fact that Southgate is not the most, it is Southgate that's important. The name of the mall is what it is that is poignant and important about this dream. I spoke with Ali, and I was like, Ali, we're both going to Southgate, but none of us live in Southgate for real. We're just gonna like basically be halfway home, both of us. And that's how the dream sort of kind of ended, with Ali and I talking about how we're going to, and we knew that we were in the wrong queue. We knew that it was not going to get any of us home, but we were in it, and we were just like basically just like, and that's how the dream ended. When I woke up from that, yes, guys, I was like, guys, my walk as a Christian, basically the Lord has just allowed me to see so much darkness of my land that I don't share many of my dreams, because there's just so much darkness that I keep getting shown. And when I gauge the interpretation of those dreams, as I think through the dreams that I got, I'm like, it's so typical. I'm so annoyed and so bored with the darkness of this country, and I'm like, okay, so how long then, God, will it take for us to get out? So let us interpret this dream. Let us interpret it from the very beginning. Now, the scene with Alex, right? Me being in this vehicle by these two Okies. First of all, if you're being driven in the backseat of a car in a dream, it speaks of sorcery, witchcraft, somebody that is literally trying to chart the course of your life by using manipulative tactics. All right, and I was in the back car, following me home, right? Apparently with no strings attached. But as soon as he realized that he's not going to get anything, his strings that are attached are not going, he then got hostile towards me. What that vehicle, me being driven at the backseat of it, spoke of, and this is a curse on the land, not just on me, because it's happening to many women across the country. Our men. Oh, another thing that I need to highlight about these two guys is that it is the very same guys that afflicted me the way that they did back when I was a kid, 19, right? I told you that story in the beginning stages of this chat. But these guys were children version of themselves. They were kids. They looked no older than 20 or 19. They looked like teenage boys or early 20s at the latest. They were not the versions of themselves that I even knew back then. So the first thing that God is showing me is that our men in this country are like babies. They're like kids. They're like teenage boys that have not yet been trained proper manhood, proper etiquette, proper chivalry. They have not yet come to the understanding that you don't allow women and children to languish and suffer. And even if there's nothing in it for you, it is within the best interest of your country to serve the needs of women. South Africa is the worst country to live in as a woman. That is a statistic that is totally up there in like the stats of this world. It is also very rife with gender-based violence. There's always something trending on social media about some woman that got murdered by a guy, blah blah. It's really very problematic. And yes, the issue is most prevalent in the black community, but South Africa is also majority made up of black people. We are in Africa, so it makes sense that the stats would be that skewed because our population is largely black. But it's not just black men that are killing women. Oscar Pistorius was a white guy. Steenkamp. There are white women that are perishing at the hands of their husbands. There are Indian women, etc. It is a general issue against women, but it is most prominent and prolific in the black community precisely because we make up the largest majority of citizens in this country. We are in Africa. This is Africa, so it's largely black. Okay, there is a bad problem with gender-based violence, a huge issue with our men just butchering women. Literally, they kill them overkill, as in dilab axes. Men use chainsaws in this country to kill women. They use axes to chop up their body parts. They shoot them 20 million times. Long after she's dead, they're still shooting. They cut up their body parts and burn them after they have died. Their way of burying or hiding the body is always very unscrupulous. They put them in duffel bags and leave them on sides of the street. One girl was hung pregnant on a tree after she got stabbed multiple times in her stomach, heavily pregnant, 9 months. That's how men in this country kill women. It's bad. It's horrific. It's like terrible. Bodies are found in like mangled, unidentifiable. Parents have to identify their kids with the shape of their fingernails, not fingernails but fingers, shape of their toes, birthmarks if they can find them in the charred cadaver, or clothes that they were wearing, because they're so unrecognizable facially, or the head is not even there for them to know that this is my daughter's face. That is how men kill women in this country. It's ridiculous. And if they've got bullet wounds, it's not just one wound to the head. You just did a clean kill. No. There'll be like multiple bullet wounds, like 20, 30, 40, 60 in one person. There is a minister in this country or some kind of official figure in this country that was attempted killed that way. She was stabbed, I think 37 or 38 times by her partner or her boyfriend or her ex-husband or whatever, but she lived to tell the story, and she's an official figure in the country in the sense that she's not just Jane or a Joe like Karabo. She was an official lady. So I mean, it happens even in top ranking officials of this country. So South Africa is the worst country to live in as a woman. Statistically and on the ground, we see it. We see the carnage. It's really horrible. Every mother is worried for their daughter. Every father is worried for their daughter. Every brother is worried for their sister because men have lost their cool. So there is a real assault on manhood in this country, to a point where upon men feeling kind of emasculated, small, tiny, they just take it out on women by butchering them, severing the life force out of them. There was this girl a colored girl in my organization. She was in legal and regulatory. She was all educated, had done her law degree and everything. She had a bright future. One Friday she was at work celebrating some team building. The next Monday her body had been cut, chopped into millions of pieces. She was dead because her ex-boyfriend that she had just dumped just a couple of days prior decided that you're not gonna be with anybody else. You're gonna get out of this relationship in a casket. And so he went into her complex. Security guards allowed him in because they had always seen him coming in and out of the drain. Went into her apartment and just killed her. It was so disturbing. That was like a very close case to us all at the company, and it was only the beginning of birth pains when it came to gender-based violence. The country would only from that point going forward go on to do this kind of massacring and butchering of women. That was my first taste of it being that close in proximity to us, scenario of gender-based violence. So I do know somebody who was chopped up into a whole bunch of pieces by a boyfriend. Okay. So with SA being that way, the men in my dream, they were like boys, even though they were essentially the grown men that they are in waking life, and they were argumentative over women. Over me. It's like their core purpose in life was to conquer one another with winning women, such that their friendship did not matter. Their friendship did not matter. I understood them to be friends, right? Because they were friends. Indeed, even in waking life, they were friends. But they had a falling out because of a woman. They had a falling out because of a woman. You know, guys, women are all, to in one extent or another, to one degree or another, like Helen of Troy. She is the face that launches 1,000 ships. Women make men go to war. Sometimes it's worth the while for women to make men go to war because it's a worthwhile war to fight. Esther made her man go to war, type setup thing. There are worthwhile fight. There is a cause that needs to be fought for. But when it's just for the sake of who's going to win the girl, so you can have the clout, the street cred, the badge, that's not a worthy war to convert out of every woman a bit of a Helen of Troy. Men go to war for women for loftier reasons than just the fact that I got to bang her. But in this situation, these guys had converted me into a bit of a Helen of Troy for no other reason than I'm gonna be the one to get the girl. And that's killing their relationships as men. And it's caused a division between men to a point where they are also very individualistic in the way that they operate, so they don't even talk to each other about how to run this country. They cannot, for the life of them, come together in agreement because they're busy fighting over women. Next part.